Today, we are going to do an introduction to the essentials of business English. We'll be talking about the key topics and situations that you will need to learn if your goal is to work at a company or country where the main language is English. So if that's something you're interested in, then keep on watching. Hey, this is Michael with Michael's Business English. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Michael Frincon. I'm a former six-figure data analyst turned ESL instructor and career coach, and I support English language learners improve their career development through communications and language training. If you're new here, on this channel we talk about business English, communications, and career development. So if you are into that, make sure you like and subscribe, and all the links that we mentioned in this video you can find in the description box below. Stay tuned for the end, because I'm going to talk about a student of mine who went from being super shy at work to becoming ultra confident by improving her English in just a few weeks. So you might be asking, what exactly does essentials mean here, and why is this an introduction to the essentials of business English? So the reason I decided to make this video is because sometimes people are confused about what the difference is between normal English and business English and even career coaching. Right? These are all separate categories that deserve their own kind of like vertical, so to speak, meaning like there's a specific type of training that you need. So for example, when I got my TEFL certificate, I got teaching not just for general English, but also English for young learners, as well as English for like business English. There's also specific certificates I've taken for business English skill sets. So for example, I have training on hospitality English. And for career coaching, that's a completely different skill set altogether. And that assumes you already know the language and that you don't need help with that. And so that's why that's an important thing to separate right here. Is like, what is business English versus general English versus career coaching? Because you could be someone who needs business English but does not need career coaching, for example. So the essentials are, in my opinion, these are the key things that any English language learner who is interested in their career as it relates to American corporate work life in some fashion, whether that means you are a job-seeking professional, you work full-time, 9 to 5, maybe more, you're a consultant, maybe you do contract work, or you are a freelancer or solopreneur, or even an entrepreneur, and you do work, you do business with English-speaking countries, and that's the lingua de franca, which is the language of choice, right? So for example, if you are a freelancer in Fiverr, you're going to have a lot of people who are from America trying to recruit from you, and what I've seen happen is like I get messages in broken English, and I'm just like, I don't know if I should trust this guy. Another example I've seen is I'm in multiple Facebook groups for those of us who are interested in writing, right? So like for a while I was interested in being a blogger and writer, I wanted to be a freelance writer. I'm still in these groups that are paid for the course. And sometimes you'll see non-native English speakers who ask questions like, how do I know that my writing sounds American or sounds English, right? Like their writing is good. They're confident in their grammar. They can pass Grammarly. They don't need more help with like the English lessons. What they need help with is the communications. Like there's a modality, there's a nuance there that's a little specific. So that's why I think we need to have this introduction to essentials, because there are certain things that might be more important to more general language learners. There might be things that are more important to more job-seeking professionals. This is for those of you who are like, you got this stuff down, you're okay with the crowd, you don't need someone to help you with your resume, you don't really need someone to teach you like how to do interviews, you just need help with your communication skills in English. With that being said, I feel that there are two separate categories of essential business English that I'm going to cover. So the first part is what I call job seeker essential English. This is what is going to be things like the resume, your CV, your interviews. Like I said before, like you might be confident in your resume, you might be like, I can get jobs in my country. It's now just a question of translating it into English so it makes sense in the English language, understanding like not just the culture, the nuances, but also like the actual like the phrases, like so to some extent grammar, but more like even word choice. The separate second category is what I call on-the-job English. This is called more like on-the-job essentials. So you can consider things like etiquette, how to do presentations and meetings, customer service, and some special to nuances like proposals and pitches depending on your job. That might be important if you already have a job, as well as negotiations depending on the kind of work you do. So I worked in vendor management for a few years in operations, and being able to handle proposals, being able to write pitches for vendors and get contracts, get requests for proposals, and win negotiations so that we're saving money was part of my job on the job. So I put that under on the job essentials. Okay, so for this video, this is actually just going to focus on job seeker essentials, right? Because it would be too long of a video if I tried to do both job seeker and on the job. I'm going to keep them separate, and depending on who you are, you may not need both anyway. So this video is job seeker essentials, and we're going to cover the 6 topics I think are absolutely critical for all job seekers. These are your resume, CV, your cover letter, interviews, networking, phone, and emails. Now you might be thinking like some of that stuff like phone and emails can technically fall under on the job essentials, and that's my thoughts too. Like yes, however, I think most people are going to fall under the job seeker spectrum, saying I need to know this stuff, know how to handle the phone, how to handle emails. That stuff you probably need mostly for job seekers too. So that's could fall into both, but I decided to put them under job seeker essentials because those are where most people struggle with. You know, if you have a job, emails is not as critical. Usually you know how to do it correctly. So let's deep dive into the 6 different topics. So the reason I call it resume/CV for the very first topic is that it highly depends, one, on what country you're applying to, where you're applying for work, and 2, it also depends on the type of job. So in America, for example, we also use CV. We use resume mainly, but if you're applying for a job at academia, you're applying for a job at university, you're going to submit your CV, your curriculum via TIE. In other countries, you don't call it resume, you call it a CV. The same idea though, and the CV would still be applied go for a job. So if you're in Taiwan, for example, teaching English, you would use a CV to get a job at a cram school, even though it's still a regular job, not academia. The big things that we cover in terms of business English for your resume and CV is the use of action verbs, right? So if you're not familiar with action verbs, it might be a good idea to go back to some of the beginner stuff, but it's important to make sure that we're not just listing out like our achievements, but making sure that the words we're using are specifically like going to help improve the effect. So if you haven't seen my 30 days of resume CV vocabulary, I highly recommend you check out those videos. It's a 3-part series, but we talk about things like how to use certain action verbs on a resume, how to talk about certain words in the summary section. Right now, again, the difference is that instead of like going through an actual career coaching course, which is like how to write a good resume, it's not about just like writing good resumes, but writing good resumes in English. Right? So the type of resume that you might write in a different language might be very similar. Like the skills are probably going to be the same. The idea of writing achievements is really important, still the same, but the language you use is going to be different. The second topic is the cover letter. This is another way of looking at this. It might be a letter of introduction, letter of application, letter of interest. I've seen it called different things. In America, we call it a cover letter. And this is a supplementary document that we submit with most jobs when we're applying for a job. We usually send it with the resume. And what's important with the cover letter, what we cover with this course, is the importance of strong English, the importance of confident English. This is more of a cultural thing as opposed to a language thing. But I think this is also still very important when it comes to English, because even something simple as word choice can really change the meaning of a sentence. So for example, I think I can means you're not sure. I know I can means you are sure. And it's a very small thing, like think versus know. Such a small nuance in words has a dramatic effect on whether you will get an interview or not, because it showcases like, can they trust you? So for interviews, same thing as before. We're going to talk about the type of questions you're going to get asked, how to respond best to those questions. So that might fall a little bit. There might be some nuances, some similarities, some parallels with career coaching, but you're going to find that we're mostly going to cover vocabulary, like how do you answer interview questions in English. The fourth lesson that I want to talk about for Job Seeker Essentials is networking. And this is really cool. This is all about small talk. And then this is the number one question I've gotten from every single student has been, how do you engage in small talk in English? Because most of my students, like whether they're sales representatives or they're information technology specialists or they are project managers, they all struggle with the same thing, and that's doing small talk. Which is weird because like in their origin country, like their country of their birth, where their native language might be Russian or Spanish or Hindu. I hope that's the right language. I hope that's the right language. I'm not sure. I have to double check. But they struggle to do small talk in English because they don't know the words. They have trouble thinking in English. So the networking module is all about how to speak in English using small talk. So example phrase like what are you drinking? We also talk about compliments because those are very easy to do to start conversations in English. The next topic is phone. How to talk, telephone, cell phone, but phone, right? So you can call it whatever you want. With the workplace, there's actually specific languages and word choices we use. So for example, how we answer the phone in English might be a little bit different than how you do it in another country. There's a cultural element of it, and there's also like the word choice to it, like certain words and phrases, and most importantly, I would say idioms. So you'll hear things like, can I take a message? Or he's out at the moment. So we use shortcuts. We don't actually say, Mr. Jefferson is doing so-and-so. We will literally like use like short phrases to kind of things out. And the final one is emails. Emails, and the reason this is so important is that we use a lot of acronyms. So you'll see a lot of code, a lot of languages like done in short form. So emails have certain ways we open and set expectations in the email, close out emails like salutations and greetings, but also acronyms that come up that are really important. All right, so to conclude this video, we talked about the business English essentials. We talked about the differences between job seeker English and on-the-job English, and the differences between general English, business English, and even career coaching. So I hope you found this helpful. Make sure you check out the appropriate demo lessons below if you want to learn more about each specific topic. We have recorded all of these as demo lessons so you get an idea of what they look like, what to expect if you were to take lessons like this at Michael's Business English. Also, like I promised in the beginning of the video, I'm going to give you the opportunity to learn more about like how one of my students went from being shy and struggling to deliver presentations at work to becoming very confident quickly through Michael's Business English. There's a link below to download the case study, which shows you exactly what my student did, the things that were essential for her in order for her to become a confident English speaker. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you check out the link below so you can get that case study. That way you can get an idea of what it's like, what the process is to go from being shy to being confident quickly. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you guys had a good day. Hope you enjoyed this. Send me any questions you have. Leave a comment below if you have questions. So shoot me a DM. It's probably the best way to do it as well on LinkedIn. Right now, I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. So otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.